Thank you so much for checking out Tea and a Butty on YouTube. For exclusive content, please consider becoming a patron. Details are in the link of this video's description, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hello, and welcome to the Tea and a Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
Today's episode is going to be British assumptions, and European assumptions about Americans.
Yeah, we put it out on Twitter.
Twitter and Instagram, didn't we?
Yeah. And we don't actually necessarily know where the replies came from around the world.
We've collected a few and we'll talk about them, so,
Yeah.
We'll discuss them in a civilized manner.
Yeah. No, we've done a similar type of podcast like this, a year ago or more.
About a year ago.
Stereotypes.
Yeah.
So that's sort of similar, but we've never actually directly asked our followers to give us their assumptions and Yeah. Why is it, before we get into the specifics of these replies, why is it that the assumptions about America and Americans are so much nastier than Americans' assumptions about British or Europeans?
To give a generalization of it, it's because of the culture. The culture.
Meaning what?
The culture invasion that America, it's like American this and American that, and, then there's a negative connotation associated with, again, it's like a stereotype that goes back to the war time, America's so great, and, the American tourists going, if it hadn't been for America, none of this would be here, that type of thing.
Yeah.
We saved your asses, boy. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you've got the whole civil rights movement and the Southern, and, people just associate I'm generalizing here, but a lot of people, in Britain and maybe Europe too, associate America with just the South. It's just the South.
Yeah.
And the South of, the 1920s when there were still slaves and everything,
Yeah.
And it's still kind of oh, they're stupid, they don't know anything, and they've got a huge country, and and it's just they're so ignorant, and that,
Yeah.
That's the kind of buffoonery that has been prevailed, it's a lot of people, and it's kind of interesting to note that, because there's a lot of them, I just assume that everything is so quaint and lovely over there,
well,
and it's no, it's not quaint, it's not really get so vitriolic about it. You're so why don't you read a book, whatever,
Yeah.
It's that kind of attitude you get back, instead of just no, it's not quaint. It's we've moved on.
Yeah.
It's just chill out. Chill out, British people.
They get really
and some
wound
Europeans
up,
who get wound up too, I'm sure.
Yeah, because
because I'm sure there's some Italians or something like that who get wound up about, we're not all about the mafia, and we don't go Mamma Mia all the time, and all this kind of stuff. It's what is all this? And there's probably that.
We don't all eat spaghetti and
we
pizza
don't all eat
every
spaghetti
day.
and pizza every day, and we don't go Mamma Mia all the time, and
and the French, we don't go
and chomping onions. But again, right? Again, British people have that kind of stereotype about Italians too. Yeah. All you have to kind of look at is the show Allo Allo, where it made fun of every stereotype.
Yeah.
Not just European, but every British stereotype too, everybody had their stereotypes about each other, and each were equally made fun of,
Mm.
So yeah.
But it makes me kind of sad as an American to know that the rest of the world views us this way.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
It's starting to become like people aren't wanting to travel outside, because I've heard of that, like there's a lot of like Americans, I mean, even you, I think, were a little bit like, oh, how am I going to be received? And, am I going to get someone who's going to be like, oh, at me, about some stupid
Well,
thing.
I think that
Your
was more,
president
that was
or
in
whatever.
that was in France, I think. I was a little bit, because you've heard, the French do not like Americans. They, funnily enough, they are like the only, I'd say, Western European country that we have an idea in America that they don't like us. Because
what? Because
in America, I think that we mostly think that we're loved around the world because we're so great. You know what I mean?
It's like, oh yeah, you love us because they love Friends. They love, they love our movies. They love, oh yeah, American culture everywhere. Yeah, Dr. Pepper, Coca-Cola,
and that's
McDonald's.
And that's both the ignorance and the arrogance that exemplifies our ignorance and our arrogance that the rest of the world doesn't like. You know what I mean?
But the thing is, it's very much like this, the way that, you describe America with the ignorance and the arrogance is how Britain was for probably a century.
Yeah.
Probably throughout the entire 19th century, Britain was like that.
Yeah.
Like everyone in the world loves us. We've got colonies everywhere, and oh yes, so civilized.
Industrial Revolution.
And everything,
Yeah.
And it was just like, boom, no. That's not, we don't want you here.
Yeah.
Get out,
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
So whereas America doesn't have an empire like colonies and stuff like that,
right.
It has an empire of culture,
Yeah.
And
it mostly is culture,
Americanization,
yeah. And it mostly is culture, isn't it? Because
you
can't even say really like we don't really make anything over here, do we? We don't, except money.
I mean, except money, except brand recognition. Like McDonald's, you could say was made in America.
Yeah. No, it wasn't made in China. What I mean are like, we don't, nothing is made in this country anymore. I remember your dad came over and he was trying to find jeans made in the USA.
He was trying to find Lee jeans, I think it was.
But he wanted on the tag for it to say made in the USA. Yeah.
And I do as well.
And we could not find it.
It was all made in Bangladesh or China or
Indonesia.
Vietnam or somewhere, some Asian country,
Yeah.
And it's just like, because it's cheaper to be made over there and imported back.
But, I think that a lot of people in this country that don't travel and who are not really, like, into social media and meeting and talking with other people around the world, they don't realize the sort of, I don't know if it's extreme to call it anti-American feelings around the rest of the world, but it almost is a bit, isn't it?
Well, it is, but
in some ways,
I mean, you could get, if I started up over here, like, oh yes, Britain's so great, I'd get anti-British sentiment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, you're not. Wherever, it's like I'm saying, I probably get that.
Yeah.
So it's like, like I vaguely remember this TV show about this like tour bus. I can't remember what it was. And the guy and the conductor on it, he was saying, it was in London, he was going around and he was talking about some of the worst passengers they'd had, and he says, and there was this one American guy who just started up with the whole, and if it hadn't have been for America, England wouldn't be here.
Oh God, yeah.
And it's just that it's just kind of a worse attitude to have, and it's like and the guy said, I just don't know, don't you start that.
Yeah.
Don't you start that, mate.
I mean, growing up in small town Texas, I definitely have heard more than once the idea that we are hated, that America is hated around the world because they're jealous of us.
Well, of course.
You know?
That's a little bit of a...
So it's... Well, that's the arrogance,
that's
isn't
the arrogance,
it?
and that's the dangerous arrogance.
And that's the reason that people do hate us. So it's a little bit true. I mean, it's not true that they hate us because they're jealous of us, but it is true that they hate us. You know,
I mean, in some ways, yeah. I can see that there's a hatred because of... there's a jealous hatred there with maybe some countries, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, but for most of the time, I think it's mostly to do with, like, foreign policy and everything like that, you know, like...
Well, I think people don't appreciate a lot of our... the way we handle things domestically either, because they just can't understand why it's like that over here. You know what I mean? Because it's not like that wherever they live. In their own minds, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I will say in Britain there was a lot of anti-American feeling around 2003.
Yeah.
When the Iraq War came about, the second one.
Yeah.
And Blair... And that was stoked by the tabloids and everything, with them going, oh, Blair is George W's poodle, and, you know, he wants to go to war. And France was like, no, we're not helping with this. This is all you.
Yeah.
And of course, apparently over here, everybody's like, well, F France. We're changing the name to Freedom Fries.
Oh, God, yes.
And all that kind of stuff started happening. And then I remember seeing on the internet a load of memes of, like, you know, like this American Uncle Sam dude coming over and peeing on France and stuff like that. It was a lot of, like, weird, there was a lot of, like, anti-French kind of stuff coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and a lot of people were just like, oh, what an idiot Tony Blair's gotten us involved in this war that's not even, it's just for oil, you know?
Yeah.
And so
this is a whole other
so yes,
topic.
this is like getting more political now, but yes, that's when it started up, and I think there's still, so it's kind of like the wave of anti-American sentiment still dates back from then, and now, you know, with Obama, it kind of leveled out a bit. You know, everybody started like, oh yeah, you know, but people started to say, oh, well, Obama doesn't seem to like the UK. You know, he had a bust of Winston Churchill removed or something from the Oval Office, and he was kind of being cool with us. And everybody started like, oh yeah, I like Obama. Yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah, what do you think of Obama? You know, well, now with this current president, things are starting to go back downhill, you know. But anyway,
I just think that if travel wasn't so expensive for Americans, it would really benefit.
And if you didn't have such a huge country,
it would really benefit, you know, this country.
Right now where I'm sitting, I'm looking directly at a map of the world. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and I'm looking at America, and I'm thinking, you know, people are like, oh, America, yeah, so huge, so big. And it's like Canada kind of dwarfs it. Yeah. If you put it all together.
Yeah. There's not as many people in Canada, though.
Yeah, there is not as many people.
It's a bigger country physically, but yeah.
But when you think about it, the USA is made up of almost entirely immigrants, you know?
Well, yeah. yeah.
You know, not like, you know, just recently emigrated, but, you know, just the
descendants of immigrants.
The descendants of immigrants, you know? So that's why you get a lot of oh, I'm Irish, and oh, I'm Italian, and, you know. All
right,
I'm
I think
German.
I was going to say more, but I'm getting really depressed. So let's just get into these responses so that I can just, like,
your personal experience traveling overseas, have you ever received any?
No. Oh, I was going to say that. No, never. Just for Americans listening who want to travel abroad and haven't, no, I never experienced anything at all. In fact, I experienced it more like I thought I would have as an arrogant American. You know what I mean?
You're just going around, you're like, oh, yes. Oh, yes, you love me. Hello, everybody.
No, but
yes.
people seemed to be interested that I was American, and they wanted to talk to me, and they were friendly, and, I didn't have anybody, like, kind of turning their nose up at me.
No, and I mean, and that goes for me too over here. I've never had anybody going, yeah.
I definitely had some people ask me a couple of the things I think that were assumptions that we received. So let's get into the assumptions and we'll talk.
We'll get into the assumptions now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to give little shout outs. I don't know whether these are the names of the people or whether we took their screen names or whatever, but if you sent us in an assumption, maybe you'll recognize it. It was a couple of weeks ago.
It was a couple of weeks ago now, yeah.
Yeah, that we asked for your assumptions.
So we're just now getting around to recording this, so.
Yeah.
But these all came from Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Orange Cat
Cat
said, all Americans are obnoxious. And I can confirm that, actually. Hello! No, I'm joking.
I mean, obviously, that's a generalization.
That's a huge generalization. I mean, if it's a generalization. I mean, you could say the French are obnoxious, the British are obnoxious. I mean, really, if you look online, there's more evidence to find the British are obnoxious than any Americans out there. Really.
I mean, just look at these assumptions that we got from British people. Read some of the comments on people's YouTube videos.
Oh, yes.
No, I mean, obviously that's a generalization. Like you said, there's obnoxious people everywhere.
Yes. Yeah. Gav said guns.
Yeah. He didn't actually say guns. He just sent a gif.
A gif of someone with the gun.
Yeah, I think it was Yosemite Sam and Bugs Bunny, and they were, like, shooting each other.
See, if you dressed up as Yosemite Sam when you first came to Britain, everyone would have loved it. And you would have went, rack and frack and varmint.
But we assumed that he meant that Americans there's a lot of guns over here.
Yes.
And that's
how many people assume America, they're just a bunch of Yosemite Sams in Texas, with the big thing, and they did little hats, and they're just like, oh, I hate that rabbit.
Oh, that dance my hide. Yes. Oh, what I was going to say is this is one of the things that I alluded to a moment ago, that when we were in a pub in Wales, somebody that I don't know that you guys knew, that was one of the things he asked me.
He was just a random pub guy. Yeah, I don't think I knew him.
Everybody was kind of like talking to me and asking me questions.
He was like a background character in the pub, he was. He wasn't part of the main cast of the pub. That's what I like to say. There's the main cast, and then there's like supporting cast, and then there's like an extra or two. Yeah, he was just like an extra guy.
But he came and sat down next to me, and he was just asking me all these questions, about America. What was I liking it in Wales, and what have we been doing and whatever. But then somehow he just, and I seem to remember, this was a few years ago now, so I don't remember exactly, but I seem to think that it just sort of came out of nowhere, it was just like, he's like, okay, this is my first American, so here's my chance to
my chance to
ask everything about America that I can think of, just like rapid fire style.
Yeah. Usually it's like, what do you think of Obama? I think you had a couple of questions
well,
in
Spain I had that because, we arrived in Spain on the actual day after the election when Trump was elected. So I got a lot of what do you think about the election results, and did you vote, and all of that, and I had already voted, but
yes, Erica voted and then swiftly left the country.
Anyway, so this is one of the things that the guy in the pub, the random extra guy in the pub, asked me was, does everyone in America own guns, and do you just like carry them
on a holster
on
in the
you
hip,
when
like
you're
Yosemite
walking.
Sam.
Yeah, when you're walking down the street. And the answer to this assumption is no. I do know people, being that we live in Texas, I do know people with guns. I have never once seen anybody who is not a police officer.
Yeah, me neither.
Have a gun on them out in public, even though it is allowed in Texas. Open carry is allowed. You could technically see this has not been for all time. This was recently passed, just a few years ago, that this was allowed. I think it's ridiculous. I'd say most of the people think it's ridiculous.
Well, a lot of businesses have decided, you cannot have a firearm.
Well,
national,
you
cannot have
even particularly chain type places.
So it's like it's useless. You'd just be walking around a park in it, you know.
Yeah. Yes.
You couldn't go in anywhere. You couldn't go into Walmart carrying and go rack and frack environment.
You can have if you have a concealed weapons license, you could technically have one in your purse, or you could have it in your jacket. You just can't. Open carry means you can't have it out where people can see it. Yeah.
You can't have it on the hip holster. Yeah.
And so that is legal. That technically that is something that we could potentially see around the streets, you know, here, but I've never once seen it. I've never once seen anybody fire a gun. I've never seen anybody have a gun on them. The people that I do know with guns keep them locked away, which it's kind of like, why do you have it then if you're just going to keep it locked away? And you have to, you know, but you got to keep it locked away if you've got kids. So again, it's just like, why do you have it? But anyway, no, people are not walking around with guns on their heads. I've never seen it before. No.
Yeah.
And I'd say, do most people have guns? I mean, I wouldn't say most. Do half of Americans own guns? I really don't know. I don't think that anybody knows, because unfortunately, you can buy guns secondhand from people. You can buy them in like a pawn shop. So there's no way to keep track of everybody who owns a gun.
Yeah.
Which is very unfortunate, but anyway.
The next assumption from Tracy was every American owns a gun.
Yeah. So no. The answer is no.
And our other assumption was Americans eat fast food every day. Which depends on the person, the individual.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the same. I know there's people in the UK who eat fast food every day. They eat takeaway.
Yeah.
You know, pizza, Indian, Chinese, McDonald's.
I mean,
Burger King.
That definitely depends on the person. Dominic and I eat it so rarely that we are unable to keep up with these trends and things. You know, like we just now got around to eating the what was it, the Popeyes chicken sandwich, which has been out since like the beginning of the year. Well, to be fair to
that, right, because there was a big thing, the Popeyes chicken sandwich, and someone tried it on YouTube. Everyone was out getting them, so they were out at every Popeyes. We did try to get one, and then we were just like, after the third or fourth time, we were just like, sod it.
Forget it, yeah.
And then like months later, we went to Popeyes, and I was like, I'll try the chicken sandwich. And it is good. The hype was, it's probably my go-to thing, and it's quite cheap too.
But yeah, in our house, we eat fast food like once a week, once every 2 weeks. Something like that.
Something like that. It's rarely. It's not every night.
It's certainly not every day, no.
Ugh.
I, again, like, and you might say they might be the same people who own guns. I do know some people who eat fast food very, very
fairly regularly.
Fairly regularly.
They hold up the fast food joint with the gun so they get it free.
America. Oh my gosh, yeah. So that just, again, depends on the person, yeah.
Elwood Blues says, in restaurants, Americans don't know what hot tea or English tea is.
You can attest to this.
I can attest to this because they don't. I mean, if you ask for a cup of tea at any restaurant, they're likely to bring you a cup. They're likely to ask you what kind of tea.
Yeah.
What kind? We have chai, which is chai as tea. We have herbal tea. We have, Earl Grey. We have da-da-da-da. It's just like, no, just a cup of English breakfast tea. And I think it's like that in Britain now, too.
This depends on where you are.
It kind of does,
say.
yeah.
Because
if you went to a fast food place...
You have a story up in Childress, Texas.
Do I?
Yeah, this other British girl that just randomly happened to be in line right in front of us. And Childress is a very small town. I think we were in McDonald's. Yeah, we stopped to get breakfast. We were on the road. And this girl was ordering tea.
She goes, "Can I have some tea, please?" She said like that. And the guy looked at her kind of like, "What?" Yeah, okay. And he went and...
to get some
iced tea,
yeah.
And she was like, "No, hot tea.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he went and heated it up in a microwave or something.
Well, I don't know, but he was definitely just like, "Yeah, we don't sell hot tea here. What are you talking about?"
Yeah, and it's like, this is Texas, you know.
But in Austin, if you were in like, Austin's very like trendy, very hipster vibes.
Maple brown sugar.
If you ordered hot tea, they would bring you a little selection of teas and a little kettle with hot water in it.
Yeah, because your grandmother used to order
hot.
Yes, that's
frequently.
True. Yeah, so it would be just like case.
So in most sit down restaurants, they're gonna know what hot tea is.
Yes,
you can't just order a hot tea.
But if you said, "Oh, can I have a tea?"
Yeah,
you know.
Can I have a tea? If you said, "Can I have a tea?" No, you're gonna get iced tea.
Yeah.
You have to specify.
A tea, and they'll go sweet or unsweet.
Yeah, and that means iced.
Yeah, that means cold. Yeah,
that means cold tea. So, yeah, sweet or in Texas they'll ask you sweet or unsweet. But it's gonna be iced tea. In Austin, if you want hot tea, you will get hot tea. You have to say, "Hot, can I have a hot tea?" And they'll bring you out a little selection of different tea bags.
It'll be like flavored. Earl Grey. It'll be like
English breakfast.
Yeah, there'll be an English breakfast in there. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't just order hot tea and expect them to bring you an English breakfast tea already in a cup with, no.
I mean, I think nowadays, thanks to changing habits, but years ago, like say like in the 90s, if you went into any kind of cafe and you said 2 teas, it would be black English breakfast tea with milk in it.
Oh yeah.
And they'd ask you, "You want sugar?" "Yeah, there's sugar on the table."
Yeah.
They wouldn't even ask you if you wanted milk in it. And if you said, "Oh, I don't want milk in mine," they'd look at you weird.
Yeah.
Because that was how things were done.
Yeah.
A cup of tea and that's it,
Mm-hmm.
But now it might be a case of, "Oh, what kind?"
Yeah.
And you go, "Oh, Darjeeling, you got it, Got Darjeeling, love,
Yeah.
But yeah. Haley says that you all think England is a teeny tiny island where everyone knows everyone. I was asked if I knew the Queen and some random Karen who lived 300 miles away from me. I mean, I've kind of experienced that, but on the internet,
Yeah.
Yeah. "Oh, do you know the Queen, or do you know my friend Bob, who lives in Colchester?" It's just like, no, I don't. It's just like, "Oh, do you know my friend Bob who lives in Colchester? Oh, I've got a friend Bob. Do you know him?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard of that before.
I've heard of it,
it's
too.
Like, "Oh, do you know..."
I think it's a really weird assumption, though, because I don't know anyone personally
it's like
who
they think it's like a small town,
But who are these people? Because...
Well, it's the people who...
And this is nothing against Haley, because like I said, I have heard of this assumption before, but I don't personally know any Americans who think that everyone in England knows each other.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just silly. Like,
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I've heard of this happening all the time. Like this. Say like you're in a small town, America.
Yeah.
And you meet someone and they go, "Oh, that's great. Where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from England. I'm from London." Say, and it's like, "Oh, I know do you know Karen? You know?
Yeah.
Do you know Karen? She lives in Ealing.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I know a Karen, but not the Karen you want. You know, it's just like they think everybody knows everyone because it must be so small over there, and because you're from that place, and it's like, because I'm thinking of it as a small town. You know.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like another country to me. It's like it's like a small town to them. England, Scotland, Wales, you know, it's all like small town.
Yeah.
And everybody knows everyone because it's all small and quaint and cars are small over there. And yeah, you know.
Yeah.
You must know him because he's English, you know.
Right.
You must know Karen because she's English too.
Yeah, I guess so. I feel like people who think that must themselves be from small towns, though.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
that's
because,
what you know. It's like a small town type thing.
Yeah, because like if
because they know Karen.
If you lived in Austin, or if you lived in New York City, or L.A. or Houston or Chicago or whatever, I don't think that you would assume that people. And what is with the assumption that Americans think that all British people know the Queen?
I don't know.
Where does that come from?
I guess it's because they think the Queen has met everybody in Britain.
Or
it's like, has she? She's met a few people, yeah, but it's like,
well, your great grandma got a something from the Queen, didn't she?
Everybody gets that. Everybody who hits 100 gets a telegram from the Queen. You write off to Buckingham Palace for it.
Well, so there you go. You
can do that with the president.
You know the Queen 6 degrees of separation to the Queen. Because she wrote your great-grandmother.
Did she, though, or was it their private secretary, you know?
She must have signed it, surely. Like my...
They probably have a stamp.
My grandmother has a... This is off topic, and we're out of time, so we're going to have to carry on the rest of the assumptions to another podcast. But my grandmother has a letter from Obama. When she, once you've hit 80, I think you can request the president sends a birthday greeting or whatever.
Yeah.
So my mom did that for her, and so she's got a thing from Obama, and it's all typed out, obviously, but he signed it. His signature's at the bottom. Surely the Queen's, little signature is at the bottom of
but it could be just a stamp.
Maybe.
They must have that, because, I mean, how many requests does she get to sign things every day?
Yeah, but when I used
it's not like Parliament type stuff.
But when I used to work in an office, I had a stamp with my boss's signature on it, and it looks like a stamp. It doesn't look like a signature.
I suppose so. It may be.
Yeah.
Because I can just imagine oh yes, and we had this from the Prime Minister, Your Majesty, and and would you sign for Dominic's great grandmother? Happy birthday, 100 years old. It's like, oh yes. Bugger all the other stuff. Let me get
Dominic's great grandmother. Sure.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we are out of time. We didn't get to some of the most nasty assumptions, so we're saving those for next time.
Yeah, you're gonna get a treat next time.
If you guys have any more assumptions that you want to send in, between now and then, go ahead and tweet those to us, or send them on Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah.
And we'll include them in part 2 of this Assumptions podcast about Americans.
Yes.
Which has been so wonderfully fun and not at all horrible and sad.
No, it hasn't been. It's been remarkably pleasant.
Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we really appreciate your support.
Yeah.
And we will talk to you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.